I'm John McAllister, and today on my video podcast, Me and Jesus, getting to know him better and better, appreciate him a lot. Steve Sturgeon here in Upper Sandusky is a pastoral assistant at Trinity. He works with hospice. He's a hospice chaplain. He's coached football, and he also he's the director of the Upward football program out at Trinity. And I'm so excited to talk to him. He walks with Jesus. Steve is a good man. You can communicate with him. He always has a smile on his face. He's patient, and he definitely walks with Jesus. So if you sit back and enjoy my conversation with Steve Sturgeon from here in Upper Sandusky. This is what I got in the mail. Stand firm, be in the faith, be courageous, be strong. And it goes on 1 Corinthians 16:13. But I had a boy that quarterbacked for me 50 years ago. I started him as a sophomore. And to this day, he is a monk now in a monastery in Georgia. And he's got to be 63 years old or something like that, at least. But that's how I said earlier, we talked about how coaching has a lot of benefits. And I'm sure you've
absolutely
experienced the same things. And you were talking about your oldest kids sometimes are ones that keep in contact sometimes. And that's fantastic. Steve, you have an open mic now. You can talk about anything about me and Jesus. But first, before, I think it's huge. I know you came up through the coaching profession, taught school, you taught math. Eventually, weren't you an Upper Sandusky graduate? Didn't you graduate from Upper Sandusky?
I did. I'm a lifetime Upper Sandusky, Wyandot County guy.
You went away a few years and then ended up close to Ridgedale, where I was at Ridgedale. You were at Ridgedale at different times.
Yep.
But now you're a retired math teacher. Let's talk about, at the bottom there, I have Steve Sturgeon, pastoral assistant, Upward football director, and hospice chaplain. We can talk about any of those you want to, and then we can talk about you and Jesus or how it all fits in.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's awesome to be here, and I appreciate it. And I know you probably don't remember, but years ago you gave me advice. I came to you and talked to you when I was coaching at Ridgedale, thinking about coming back to Upper and trying to figure out which was better to get more head coaching experience at Ridgedale and then come to Upper and work my way up through the ranks. And you just smiled and said that's something you got to figure out on your own. And I appreciated that advice. Not at the moment, but now I do, because I understand that. And being a lifetime Wyandot County guy, I was away for 5 years teaching and coaching down in Gallipolis, down in the Ohio River, where I made friendships and men that I still am connected with today. It's fantastic. So I know that for the 30 years that I taught and the 35 years that I coached, that's what I was supposed to be doing. But I really had no idea what God had in store. When on January the 19th, 2011, I can take you to the spot at Upper Sandusky High School where God said, Steve, I want you to retire. And that just blew my mind, because I had no plans to retire. I was going to be that guy they were going to take out on a stretcher, because I loved it, every day of it. But now he has taken me in a total different direction. I get to still work with football, but now it's kids kindergarten through 6th grade, a whole different level. He's taken me to a job with hospice where I get to work with people who are at the end of their lives. And it's just such a I love probably my second career now more than I loved my first career. And that's kind of crazy to even think about for me. I'm one of those lucky guys who has never had to go to work a day of his life. I get to go to work every day. and it's exciting. And that's about my relationship with Jesus. That's what that's completely about. I have absolutely tremendous parents who raised six of us kids, and we joke around and I tell them they raised six kids, one who's normal, that's me, but the other ones are pretty good too. But we were taught at a young age to love God and to listen. But it just, like all kids, you do it, but you don't really think about it. And so, multiple times in my life, I would never do anything really bad, but just never be all that I could be, all that God wanted me to be. And then each time, something would happen in my life, Jesus would step in and say, look, it's like a friendship, it's like a relationship. If you want to keep it on level one, then that's where it's going to stay. But we should bump it up to level two, and then to three, and then to four, until, probably about 15 or 18 years ago, I just said, you know what, God, I'm all in. Jesus, just I don't want to just be your friend once in a while. I want to walk it. I want to talk it. I want to do the everything I possibly can do. And he said, hang on, because we're going for a ride. And it's been absolutely fantastic. Something that really didn't happen a lot with coaching. You have relationship with your other coaches, but then sometimes that goes away in the off season. It's not as close. When you're teaching, you get relationships with some teachers, but now God has brought men into my life who walk beside me every single day. People who hold me accountable, people who just absolutely, we thrive and inspire each other through our love for Jesus. And now it's just like, he's got my whole heart. It's not even something that I think about. It's just how we live. And he has blessed me so much. There's been Bible verses. I know, I've listened to your other podcasts, and Carol Meinhardt talked about Romans 8:28, where he says all things work for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And that's a hard verse to understand when you're going through tough stuff. But my family uses that verse. We just look at each other and say 8:28, and we know what we're talking about, because we had a father who had dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and there was no easy path through that because mom took care of him at home. But it was through that we as a family grew closer together. That's part of the reason why I know that God called me to retire when he did, was to be available to take care of my parents. That's the reason, going through that with my dad. That's part of the reason why now, as a hospice chaplain, I can relate so much to people, who are at the end of life, who have been told there's nothing else that the doctors can do. And so they make the choice to get the most out of the remaining days that they can. And I can be there for them, and I can help them, and we can laugh together, and we can cry together, because that's what I've been through with my parents. So each one of those tough things in my life, Jesus has been right beside me, and he said, well, I know you don't get it right now. He said, you will later down the road. And so it's become a trusting friendship for me, that through Upward, through my work here at Trinity, through hospice, I want to share that with other people, because success has not always followed me. Success as the world would define it. If you get that football program in the fall at Upper Sandusky High School, and I don't even know if they still do, but they list all the football coaches, and they list them by success, by the ones with the highest win percentage. You just look to the very bottom of that list, and you'll see my name, because I have the worst winning percentage of any head football coach in the history of Upper Sandusky High School.
Let me stop. Just, you with me now? You with me, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
I get so tired when they talk about the best coaches, or they kind of say it's the best record. That is so far. And I'm talking about college football, and I've dealt with a lot of college coaches, and because you're the head coach at Ohio State or Clemson, you're automatically one of the best coaches, and that's not true, by the way. I mean, you're in a
No.
you're in a best program maybe, but you're not necessarily the best coach. And I've done it. I've been around this thing since I was 20. So and I agree with you. It's not always. John Reed probably had a pretty good record, but I think he was over or something. So, and John Reed's a good coach. Sometimes that happens, but
Absolutely.
it's so important that you realize that the best coaches aren't necessarily the best records.
That's right.
I mean,
And
they're good coaches, but go ahead. I'm
mhm.
sorry.
No, that was, I learned that at a young age also down in Police, the opportunity to coach with Brent Saunders. And when Brent came in and took over the program, he instituted a whole different uh, attitude of respect. Yes, sir, no, sir. Push-ups if you didn't do it. The kids didn't like it, but they did it. We went 0-10 the first year he was head coach. Everybody said, see, this doesn't work. It doesn't work. But excuse me. But for years after that, he built that program and built the kids. Those kids still, those are the ones that when they contact me, some of those kids are the ones that I'm the closest to. And they'll always be my kids, even though they're in their 50s now, but they'll write and they'll say, yes, sir, no, sir. Coach, I remember when you did this, and it becomes family. I mean, it becomes even closer than that. And, God just, he has a way of working stuff out. Brent was such a tremendous Christian man, a mentor for me. And he taught me that you can be a good Christian and be a coach. You know, it doesn't have to be, well, I check my Christianity at the
Totally,
door. Yeah, yeah. And
totally.
it's all every step of the way in my entire life, Jesus has walked beside me. He's been my friend, and I appreciate so much my parents teaching me that at a young age, and Jesus is patient with me, all the way through my life, saying, okay, yeah, well, we're at level 3, but 4 would be greater, and just each step of the way, drawing me closer and closer. And I'm not saying I'm there yet, but it's become a, a way of life now for me to just know that I can trust him, to know that he will always be there, to know that he will help me do the best that I can, to know that other people still have freedom of choice. So that doesn't mean everything's going to go my way. It doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen, but it does mean that I know how to handle them, and I know how to deal with them because of the strength that he gives me on a regular basis. So it's just exciting. I have verses. You can see a couple of signs hanging behind me, but I have verses that hang up all over the place. It says, rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. That's what he's taught me. I get excited every day to get up. Monday's the best day of the week for me. We here in the office, we walk in, we say Monday, baby, it's the best, because you make it that way. And it's just so exciting to be able to have that and to be able to take that enthusiasm out to our upward football coaches and our kindergarten kids. I walked through Walmart and all the little kids come up and high five. No kid walks by practically without high fiving or fist bump, even if mom and dad are looking like, who is that guy? The kids remember because that's part of what we do. That's the excitement that Jesus brings when I'm with them. Of course, we're blessed to have a great following here at church. And so you go out in the community and people know and they see that. And so many families, our hospice families now, our teams, and I'm part of great teams. The team at church is amazing. My upward team is unbelievable. My hospice team might be the best of all. They are absolutely phenomenal ladies who care for people. And those families literally become family to us.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful and thankful. And so I just figure I owe him bringing my best every day. And so that's,
Yeah.
that's what I try to do, what I hope to do.
Yeah. That's really good. I even, wrote a couple things down. By the way, always be joyful, pray without ceasing, or pray without stopping, and make the best of bad situations in all cases. God's will, right? God's will.
Absolutely. Hmm. I figure even if it's,
I have that
I
on my
figure
wall as well.
that's right. And my dad taught me a long time ago. He says, okay, let's think about this. This is what you want. And I would laugh and I'd think, well, I'd like to think I know. But if I'm going to put myself up against God, I think I better take his way. And
Yeah,
so I don't understand it always. I don't like it most of the time, but,
well,
I'll
see,
take his will.
I really appreciate you being on. I appreciate you taking the time. And it's crazy, but you and I, we're in different lanes, but we're in the same race. And
Absolutely.
we have experienced a lot of the same things. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sitting there listening to you going, oh my. In football once, I had a rule you couldn't take the Lord's name in vain. I mean, I
Hmm.
said, now kids are going to say slang sometimes, but I said this, and they had to, I penalized them. That was a rule. Honest
Yep.
to goodness, and we all mess up sometimes. This was it. This was my second year coaching, and something didn't go right in practice, and I said, gee, damn it. And those kids all looked at me, and I did 20 grass drills, up and downs. And they were all circled around. Now, I faked it at the end because it hurt. But, and that's a good example. And
Yeah,
there aren't
it
a whole
is.
lot of perfect guys running around out there, but I'm willing to admit that. But so
Yep.
much that you said, I really appreciate you being on today. Okay. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity.